up, book lovers? It is GSwiz here, and I'm here today to talk about all the books that I would like to reread in 2024. If you didn't know, this is a 7 on Sunday topic, and I'm the host of 7 on Sunday. I will link the Goodreads page down in the description where you can check it out and you can participate in a topic in the future, or you can suggest a topic. And I'm gonna be honest here, I don't know if I did a rereads video for last year. I might have, I'm not sure. I am also not sure if I put rereads as a topic for last year, but I would like to add rereads into the mix this year. I know there are so many setup topics for a year, but I personally love the setup topics. If you don't love the setup topics, then that's okay. You can skip the 7 on Sunday topics if you are participating in them actively, but I just really love making lists. And that's pretty much why I started 7 on Sunday and made these into topical videos. But I specifically decided to put rereads in the mix this year because there are so many book series that we might just want to recap ourselves on. There are also stories that we would like to revisit that make us feel nostalgic. I also did not put The Bargainer in the mix here, but you know what? I might read The Bargainer for a 4th time this year. Who knows? Honestly, can't blame myself if I do. But pretty much majority of the rereads that I am planning for the year of 2024 will be for recap purposes. I do have a book I want to reread for the sake of actually giving it my full time and attention. Actually, I've got a couple of those today and I will be going into them as we proceed with this video. I have many reasons why I want to reread these books in particular that I'm going to talk about today, and I am going to share the reasons why right now. So I guess without further ado, let's get right into the potential rereads I have for 2024. So first off, I'm pretty sure some of you guys immediately noticed that I have the Bergman Brothers series on this list because I would like to reread all 6 books before the 7th book comes out in April. I'm so excited for Only and Forever. However, I personally reckon that I'm gonna have a much better reading experience with Only and Forever if I binge read these in the lead up to Only and Forever, because I had an absolutely magnificent time doing that with these books. Like, binge reading the series was definitely one of the best decisions I made in 2023. I just had the best time reading these books. I had so much fun. I cried a lot of tears. I laughed a lot. I just love the Bergman family so much. And I think being in these characters' lives for a binge read definitely helped me get to know them so well. I remember catching up with a friend in the middle of my binge read of the series. It just felt so magical because I was able to talk to my friend as if these characters were real in both of our lives. Like, that just felt so awesome. And I want to feel the same way with Only and Forever. So I've decided that I'm going to binge read all these books in the lead up to Only and Forever, and the siblings do make cameos in different books as well alongside their partners, so knowing at the top of my head what their story went like while I'm reading the 7th book will definitely help me fully understand what's going on. Like, even though I did experience all the stories of the Bergman siblings, I do want to revisit their stories again just to refresh myself, because even though every single one of these books are standalones, I don't know, personally I just find it to be absolutely magical to be in the Bergman family headspace. And yes, I'm wanting an excuse to reread these books so bad. So I've decided I'm going to reread all 6 of these books before I get to the 7th and final book, Only and Forever. I am so excited for Vigo's story. You guys have no idea. I just hope that Vigo's story is good because I'm building myself up for it to be the best in the series because Vigo is my favorite Bergman brother. Fingers crossed, Only and Forever is amazing, but before we get to Only and Forever, I would love to revisit these. And the next book I would like to revisit in 2024 is Iron Widow, because I believe that Heavenly Tyrant comes out in 2024, and it's been a while since I read Iron Widow. I did read this back in 2022, but since then, I've forgotten a few things about the story. I would love to revisit it so bad, so I cannot wait to revisit the story. I actually also want to watch Darling in the Franxx before I go into Iron Widow to see what exactly inspired the author to write this book with this premise. I've actually watched a few episodes so far, and I was addicted, but for some reason, I was watching it with Camilo and Camilo was not interested because I think he watched it ages ago and he just didn't want to revisit it, which is understandable. But those 3 episodes that I watched, I got hooked, man. I cannot wait to continue on with watching Darling in the Franxx. And then after watching Darling in the Franxx, I would love to reread Iron Widow to help me with my Darling in the Franxx hangover. I was just about to say book hangover, but I'm not like reading the manga. I'm actually going to be watching the anime because I don't have the manga on hand. But I also can't wait to revisit Iron Widow because as I was watching Darling in the Franxx, Franks, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm getting serious Iron Widow vibes right now. I just need to reread this book so badly. It just seems like my kind of story. I mean, I really loved Iron Widow when I first read it, so I reckon I'm going to enjoy my reread, and I'm really hoping that Heavenly Tyrant is an epic finale, because honestly, I feel kind of sad that this is a duet, but I am hoping for all the best. So I'm hoping that the second book is absolutely explosive, and it leaves me with more answers than questions. And the next book I would like to revisit in 2024 is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. No, I will not be rereading Fourth Wing. As much as I really want to reread Fourth Wing, I've decided that I'm not going to reread Fourth Wing because ultimately rereading Fourth Wing is just going to set me up for disappointment. The reason why I say that is because I love Fourth Wing and I don't love Iron Flame, but I want to recap on what happened in Iron Flame before we go into the next book. And I kind of also want Iron Flame to grow on me. And the only way I can allow Iron Flame to grow on me is if I don't reread Fourth Wing before I read Iron Flame. I just found while reading Iron Flame, I was comparing it to my reading experience of Fourth Wing and how nostalgic I felt while I was reading Fourth Wing. And honestly, I don't want to keep comparing Iron Flame to the first book. So I've decided that this time I'm just going to independently reread Iron Flame and we'll see how I go. I'm pretty much just gonna read it for recapping, and I kind of want to see if it can grow on me, because I would consistently compare how I felt reading Fourth Wing to how I felt reading Iron Flame. I don't want to do that this time. This time I just want to read it alone because I know what happens in Fourth Wing anyway. Like, I love Fourth Wing so much, but I think because I remember exactly what happened in Fourth Wing, I don't need to recap myself on that book. If I want to reread it eventually as a standalone novel, I probably will. But that being said, G-Swizz, it's not like you hate the entire series, okay? You've only just read Iron Flame. You're only disappointed in Iron Flame specifically, okay? I don't know, maybe one day I might reread Fourth Wing and then skip Iron Flame and go on to the next book. It might happen that way if Iron Flame doesn't grow on me. We will see. I just want to love Iron Flame. I should not force it, I get it, but if I don't love Iron Flame by the end of my reread, then at least I recapped myself. And the next book I would like to revisit in 2024 is The High Mountain Court by A.K. Mulford. I really wish I fully enjoyed my reading experience of The High Mountain Court. Unfortunately, I found it to be okay, and the reason why I found it to be just okay is because this is a very popular opinion, the audiobook narration. Now, I do like Mayla Lee. I do like them specifically reading contemporary romances. I have heard their voice before in different works. However, listening to her narration while I was multitasking, because I was listening to the audiobook while I was doing data work, for some reason, I'm not too sure if it's the performance or the world building itself, maybe it's both, I just found myself getting distracted at times. She's a great narrator, but she's also very softly spoken. So I've decided that if I want to revisit The High Mountain Court and the rest of the books in the series, because Mayla Lee does narrate all the audiobooks, I've decided that I might just want to either sit down and read the physical copy, or I might want to listen to the narration while sitting down and reading the physical copy, not multitasking with work. Because as I was listening to The High Mountain Court, I found myself getting lost when it came to the world building. I did follow the romance. I really loved the romance in here, and that's what I enjoyed about the story the most. But considering that this is the first in a companion series that takes place within a world, I honestly reckon that the best thing for me to do going forward is to reread this book, revisit it, pay attention to the world building, and then proceed with the series. So that is what I am planning to do with The High Mountain Court. I cannot wait to do so. And once again, A.K. Mulford, I really just want to support her going forward. She signed my book. She sent me a book. Sorry, I'm just absolutely obsessed with that. And I also got a High Mountain Court stamp on here as well. So I definitely want to give this world a second chance, and I plan to reread The High Mountain Court to do so. And the next book I plan to revisit in 2024, I'm planning to revisit for a very similar reason to why I wanted to revisit The High Mountain Court. And that, my friends, is Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. I pretty much tried to race through this at the time that I was reading it, and I think it's because I was not expecting this book to have a slow pace to begin with. It definitely does pick up the pace like towards the end, and I do love Masters of Death so much, but I think I will love it even more if I reread it. And I'm planning to reread it in a similar style to how I would plan to reread The High Mountain Court. I've decided that I want to listen to the audiobook while holding up the physical copy and just absolutely devouring this book, especially because Steve West narrates the audiobook, and I find Steve West to be my absolute comfort voice. Like, I love his narration. He narrated the Strange the Dreamer duet, and and I will never forget him for that. Like, as soon as I heard his voice, oh my goodness, I fell in love. Yeah, Steve West is definitely one of my favorite narrators, and I just find that he's a cozy narrator because my first experience in listening to an audiobook from him was Strange the Dreamer, and that book series I pretty much took my time with. I'm wanting to do the exact same thing with Masters of Death. I'm wanting to take my time with this book. I think I was in a rush to read this because I was in the lead up to Halloween, and I was in the lead up to wanting to film like a spooky, scary recommendations video, but this book just so happened to be a very cozy one. So I'm also wanting to reread this one in the lead up to Halloween of 2024 and put it in my cozy Halloween recommendations, because this book is definitely cozy, but also it does have some high stakes as well. I really appreciated Masters of Death, but I know I will appreciate it much more if I decided to revisit it this year in the method that I plan to. And the next book I plan to revisit in 2024 is Song of Silver, Flame Like Night by Amelie Wen Zhao. I loved this book so much. I had a very fun time reading this book this year, and I believe this might be a duet or it might be a trilogy. Oh, actually, it says duology on here. So it is going to be a duet, which I mean is fair because I think this is a very solid start to a duet. So can't wait for the explosive finale. If it's going to be explosive, I really hope it's going to be explosive. I want the kaboom. I have this beautiful Illumicrate special edition. I cannot wait to get the next book in the series as well. I'm just like absolutely in love with this. Oh my goodness. But I am just so happy that this came in my Illumicrate subscription because I saw the cover reveals initially and I was like, oh my goodness, I want those books so bad. I love the covers so much. But then Illumicrate came through. They came through with this beautiful edition here. I read it and I absolutely loved the story. Oh my goodness. I just had a very fun time with it. It made me feel like a kid again because there are some childlike aspects to it, which I really appreciate. But also, this book did get quite dark at times, and I definitely think it got quite dark because this is pretty much a yin and yang situation here. I just really enjoyed the story, and I'm hoping that the sequel is everything I wanted it to be and so much more, but there are things about the story that I still need to recap myself on, so I'm planning to revisit this in the early part of the year in the lead up to the sequel and the finale. I really hope I love it. We'll see, fingers crossed. And the next book I would like to revisit and recap in the year of 2024 is The Hurricane Wars. So technically, at the moment as I'm speaking right now, I don't need to reread this book, but I'm pretty sure as the sequel approaches, I am definitely going to need to reread The Hurricane Wars to understand the world building again, to fall in love with these characters again, but also to understand the politics and everything. At the moment, the story is still fresh, but there's still a lot of the world building that I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to put two and two together. Recently, my colleague started reading this book and they started explaining how they thought that the world building was awesome, and as much as I got so excited for them, I also had to try to revisit the parts of my brain, the corners of my brain where I might have remembered some parts of the world building. So I really need to reread this book to fully understand what's going on again. I definitely know what's going on with the politics and the romance, but I would like to recap everything before we get to the sequel because I want it to have the full effect on me. And also, I just really love this book in general. I know that revisiting this will be a delight, especially because I understand the slow burn and the pacing, and I just want to see all the Easter eggs in this book before we go into the sequel. So I honestly cannot wait for this reread. This is definitely one of my most anticipated rereads. I really hope I enjoy this reread as much as I enjoyed my initial read of this book. And the second last book I have to mention that I would like to revisit in 2024 is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. This book also made it on my favorites list for 2023, and I really want to revisit this to experience the story again, but also recap in the lead up to me reading Foxglove and Wisteria, because Wisteria is coming out in 2024 at the moment, if like, you know, no delays happen. I am really nervous about how the rest of the series is going to go because I love this book so much. This book really comforted me at a very dark time, and I'm kind of wanting to reread this at a different time when I am not recently struck by grief. I honestly just want to immerse myself within the story and fall in love with these characters again and to get to know everyone and everything, because as much as I loved my read of Belladonna initially, I very much read it for comfort. It helped me at a very dark time and I really appreciate that. However, I personally wasn't ready to continue on with the story, and the reason why I wasn't is because I wasn't reading this book series for its story. Even though I was enjoying the story, I was was pretty much reading it for comfort to help me at the dark time I read it. So I decided to put the rest of the series down so that I could regroup, gather myself up again, and then eventually reread this in the lead up to the finale. I also don't like to be left on cliffhangers, and this book left me on a massive cliffhanger. So I've decided that I am going to revisit this one in 2024. I can't wait to do so. It might make me a little bit emotional considering that my initial read was at the time that I initially read it, but I reckon I'm gonna have a really good time revisiting these characters and this world again. Last but certainly not least, the final book series that I've put on my reread slash recap TBR for 2024 is the Flesh and Fire series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. The final book of the Flesh and Fire series will be coming out in 2024. When I found that news out, I just decided, no, I can't do it. I can't read the third book in 2023. And now I'm hearing from everyone that the cliffhanger in the third book, A Fire in the Flesh, is heartbreaking. I'm really happy I dodged the bullet there. I mean, I'm eventually not gonna dodge the bullet. Eventually the bullet is gonna go through. That's a really bad analogy, my goodness. Eventually it's gonna hurt, but it's gonna hurt much less considering that I will be able to go straight into the sequel and the finale. The Flesh and Fire series got expanded from being a trilogy to a quartet, so that is what I'm referring to. And yes, I'm very much looking forward to continuing on with the series, but I'm a little bit nervous and hesitant, I think, because I have been recently burnt out by this world, even though I love this world and I love thinking back to the earlier parts in the series. Like this morning as I woke up, I started thinking about the Crown of Gilded Bones and a few events that happened there before the War of Two Queens even happened. And I was like, oh my goodness, that was so romantic. And I started tearing up. I'm like, why? Why did everything have to be ruined by the War of Two Queens? I swear. So those are the general thoughts right now. I'm like not okay, but I'm hoping that I will enjoy the rest of the Flesh and Fire series. I am planning to reread the series in order to, I don't know, reignite my passion for the Blood and Ash and Flesh and Fire world. We'll see. I know that I love Sarah and Nyktos' story, so I honestly cannot wait to continue on with their story, but I'm just hearing things about the third book that are heartbreaking right now. It's too much for my heart to handle. I can't wait to finally get into the series again and reread the books beforehand because I loved the first two books in the series, but I just know that this reading experience might just completely consume me. I really hope I enjoy the rest of the series, but I reckon regardless I am going to enjoy my reread of the Flesh and Fire series, at least the first two books in the series, because those are the books I have to recap on. So I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to stay to the end of the video, leave me the green heart emoji. And if you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And also I have social medias. I'm at gswizzelbooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also GOODREADS. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok. I'm at gswizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later.
Started out with half and I flipped it in a double. Started out with half and I flipped it in a double.